So you passed. Tell me how you did. Like, give me the goods. What went on?
Yeah, I sucked, dude. First 90 questions, I was like, I'm feeling pretty good. Took a 10-minute break, went outside, walked around, stretched, and I felt like I knew the material. I
Nice.
just felt good about it. Question 91 through about 100, my whole mindset changed. I was like, oh shit, here we go again.
All right.
I didn't know a lot of the questions. I could narrow them down to probably at least two for sure. And it
Yeah.
was a guess. I mean, a lot of them became a guess, but I would say an educated guess for sure, right?
Right on.
And then it was just probably the last 110 questions was an absolute roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
And about 20 questions left. I looked up and I had about 22 minutes left.
There you go.
And I was like, all right, well, I'm still pretty much right on track.
Yep.
I got through it with about 10 seconds left and I hit submit and closed my eyes. Like, oh, I can't even take it.
And yeah, but I mean, we're talking because something good happened. So how did you do overall? Like, what was the?
Yep. So I passed. Big congratulations message, hard work paid off kind of message. And it
Yep.
was above target in initiating, above target planning, above target executing, target monitor, target close.
Not
So
bad, man.
overall above target. And when I failed it twice. So
Yeah, before.
yeah, so it was an 11-month journey. First two failures came from doing a boot camp and then doing an additional kind of PM training course, and they
Yep.
just didn't connect the dots for
Yeah.
whatever reason. And I was searching high and low, man. What am I gonna do? Who can I find? And I just found, first off, you PM Master Prep on, I think, just some audio book. And
Yeah.
I started reading it or listening to it while I was working out. And then I learned about the site. And I got on the site, signed up for the PM Master class, and you called me.
Yeah.
And the energy and just the just dedication to project management, I knew right then that I could jump on this wagon and ride it to the end. And the videos, on top of all the videos and all the John videos and all the things that come with it,
Yeah.
my process, everybody learns differently, right?
No doubt.
My whole process was I went through every single process and I took notes.
Yeah.
I have a book over here that it's probably this thick of notes.
No doubt.
Just literally rewriting what you're saying.
Yeah.
Took tests along the way, took the 200 question test, and then knowing I was about a month away, I went through it one more time. All the videos.
Yeah.
And I highlighted and I took additional little notes. Took the test, and then PMI came out with the 200 question bank.
Yeah.
That was what really kind of put it all full circle for me.
Yep.
Because the questions on the test, dude, they're lengthy to an extent, but part of them don't matter.
Yeah. A lot of them don't matter.
Yeah, and a lot of those words don't matter. So really what I figured out is how to figure out what they were truly asking. And that made, I probably went through those 200 questions from PMI. I just deleted it, but I bet I went through and I was at like 720.
Oh, 720 times. Like 20
So,
questions.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I started to memorize some of them.
Yeah, that's the hard part, right?
But there were still, like, the ones I didn't remember were the ones I was like, okay, this is where I need to focus. I need to focus on risk. I need to focus on communication and stakeholder.
No doubt.
A lot of what the test is. Project management 101 is communicating with the right people at the right time. And that's what they're getting at. But yeah, man, it was without your class and without your excitement, without your just enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know what I would have done. I don't know what I would have done. And I tell you, dude, when I called you that night, and I said, "Are you with your kids?" And you know what, I passed.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it doesn't matter. The kids have heard it, but like, I
yeah,
was just with the baby. So we christened the baby a little bit on like some
yeah,
language,
man.
but you were pumped, bro. Like you
Oh,
were very, very excited. So that was good.
I've
Yeah.
been celebrating for about 4 days in a row now.
There you go.
But I need to pump the brakes a little bit.
There you go. There you go. That's good.
Yeah, but it
I
was.
know. I mean, you were always on those group coaching calls on Wednesday nights.
Mm-hmm.
You were always there, like, adding to the questions. And I thought it was really cool that, I mean, you weren't just like waiting for your turn to like, I'll answer my question now. You were getting involved in other people being like, hey, I mean, this is how I look at stuff. And you were gambling on your perspective a lot of times. So kind of talk me through, I know you went tons through the videos and all this other stuff. And you, I mean, I love the fact that you wrote stuff down, and we'll talk about it in a second. I mean, that's how I got here. Talk me through kind of the role that talking through questions and critiquing people and getting critiqued played in your kind of success.
Oh yeah, it's huge. I always read the last question first. Even on the real exam, it was a lot of times, what would the project manager do?
Yeah.
And you have to realize, like, right this second versus what would the project manager do next?
Yeah, big deal.
The next part, or what would they do to avoid the current situation? So it's either before, current, or after.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I could then understand and really departmentalize where I was in the process.
Yeah.
And understand where and how, and you're not going to know everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what people, I think, struggle with, is they feel like they need to know every little thing. And you really don't. So back to the questions on the Wednesday night calls, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to fail. It's okay. And I look at it, Scott, I didn't fail twice, because I look at failure as giving up.
Yeah.
And I easily could have given up after failing twice, because it's a kick in the you-know-what, and you can't, like, how do you get back from it? You just look at it like, I learned from this one. I learned from this one. And by God, I passed it on the third time. and that's what it was. So it's what you said. It's jumping in, and it's really getting your feet wet, and it helps to hear other people talk about it. Because not every mind is alike. Everyone thinks a little differently, and that helped me kind of get a full circle picture of how to attack these questions and why was that person thinking about it. And I know why he or she is thinking about it that way, because that's what I did 10 months ago.
Oh, dude. That is literally beautiful, like what you just conceptualized, because like I had forgotten. I mean, I knew that you had failed multiple times, but you were so invested, and you didn't carry, like, let's just be honest, you didn't carry any shame. You didn't carry any kind of like chip. You didn't carry any, you were just like, what's next? Let me learn. You were positive the whole time. I mean, and it paid off. I think that's the big deal. So that's
Did I have doubt along the way? No doubt about it. I mean, when you lose at a game or you lose at a challenge, it brings you down a little bit. But I think it's always how you get back up, is how you. And every time I failed, or every time I should say didn't pass, I literally took a week or two off. And this is kind of the big thing for me, is those first, I would say, 10 months were brutal. I shut my personal life down. I shut, unfortunately, my wife off, in a sense. I mean, it was nothing to me was enjoyable. And we had gotten married, and it was all this great things happening in my life. But it sucked, dude. It sucked. I wasn't happy. I didn't want to play golf, and I didn't want to do anything. And finally, after I didn't pass the second time, I said, you know what? I'm done with that. This thing is not going to control me and or define me. So I literally started to go out, play golf, go out with my wife, go do things. And then I haven't shared this with anybody, but January 27th, my wife's brother-in-law unexpectedly passed away. And it was, Scott, it was brutal.
Yeah.
He was a best friend. He was a good person. He was so lighthearted. He was so caring. And I was ready to take the test. And I shut down, man. I shut down because I now had a wife that was utterly devastated. Lost her best friend, lost her brother. Now my family's spread out across the country. My parents are in Florida, my sister's in Chicago, my brother's in Kansas. I'm in Cleveland.
Right.
And now I got this in-law family.
Yeah.
And they are all wrecked. Just like you couldn't believe, man. He was the rock of the family, and he was gone. Now I'm the male left. I'm studying for this exam. I'm trying to take care of my wife, and it was just a snowball effect. I finally said, you know, what would Justin want me to do? And I kept asking, and I kept praying, and I kept trying to figure out why, which you'll never know why. You'll never know why, but I think he would want me to keep pushing, and finally I committed to it, and I think he helped me. I really do. I think he helped me when it came down to these multiple choice questions. I would look at one, and then part of me would pick the other one for whatever reason. And I think that was a big help. And, you know, with all these bad things that happen in life, man, I figured out, you know what? There is sometimes light at the end of the tunnel.
Dude.
and that's the hardest part for me. Yes, I'm happy. Yes, I'm thrilled. Yes, I've celebrated my ass off, but there's something missing, and it's him. And that's the hard part. Is I know he knows I passed, but he was always the one, you know, putting his arm around my shoulder and trying to, dude, don't worry about it. Everybody fails at something.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it was rough, but, you know, I think a lot of things happen for a reason. And, you know, here I am, man. It was an enjoyable, frustrating, hard, challenging journey that I probably wouldn't change it for anything.
Oh, man.
I say that because I've learned more about project management in the past 11 months than if I would have passed it number one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I don't think I can be stopped.
That's the goal, dude.
Yeah. Yep. So it was an incredible 11 months, but yeah, it was a journey I wouldn't change for anything, man.
That's awesome.
Some things I would change if I could, but you unfortunately can't.
I know what you mean. Jesus, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, man.
How did you manage your mind during that tough time? Like, how did you stay on? I know you had to support the family and your wife and in-laws and such. Had to be a burden. I mean, not a way, but, you know, a load. How did you stick with the studying, and how did you manage your shit, dude? I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like,
it wasn't for me to tell, really, right? I had a job, I committed to something, and I needed to fill that commitment to myself and my, you know, my job as a project manager. And I don't know how I did it. I really don't. I took a month off.
right.
I didn't look at it. I didn't talk about it. That helped, I think. In some crazy way, it helped me just kind of reset. Because my mind wasn't on project management, it wasn't on PMI, it wasn't on their tricks.
Yeah.
It was on something so completely different of how do I just be there as a human being, and as a husband, and as a brother-in-law, and as a son-in-law. That took over everything. So that's what it was. And then I got to a point where I just said, I started it. This can't stop me. And he wouldn't want me to stop. So
yeah, I was going to ask you, like, as you got that perspective with like life getting, you know, slapping you and stuff, like, but you stuck with it. And so other than like he wouldn't want me to quit and, succeed and stuff, which is valid and powerful. What about in your mind, what about the achieving this was so important to you that you would make time for it in that tough time? Like, what about it?
Yeah, I think it was a commitment and a promise that I made, 15 months ago when I thought about doing it. It was, and just like anything, whether it's a game of golf, whether it's getting better at something,
Yeah.
If I commit to something, whether it's marrying my wife or anything in this world, this crazy world,
Yeah.
and I wasn't gonna let it stop me. And I told my wife, I said, you know what, I'm gonna pass this time. I know I will, but if I don't,
Yep,
I'm gonna do it again, and I'm gonna do it. This thing will not kill me, but I'm gonna go until it maybe has to. And I wasn't gonna let this. I wasn't gonna let this damn thing win.
It wasn't gonna shut you down and slow you down and stuff like that. Now, when you went back in it, so dude, that is like, that's awesome. It's like amazing. Like, it's a testament to like other people who are in. It gives them perspective, and especially in this time, and what's going on in the country and all that COVID stuff and everything else. Like, yeah, man.
Yeah, it's fit.
Proud of you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Failure isn't. It's not. I mean, I've seen and I've kind of looked at some of the chats ever since I passed.
Yeah.
And people are frustrated, and I get it. But if I could, I guess, if somebody could hear it from my mouth, is if I could do it, and trust me, I've had a lot of fun in my life. Probably killed a couple too many brain cells in my day.
There you go.
But if I can do it, I guarantee you 99.9% of somebody trying to pass this test can do it. There's no doubt in my mind. I suck at taking tests, man. I suck at it. And I figured out a way to do it. And you just got to figure out what works best for you. If that's rewriting every word you say on a piece of paper, then going through it again, that's how I learn.
Yeah.
And I know that. So that's what I knew I had to do to get kind of to the end. So it was a battle, man, but I sure shit won.
Yes, you did. And so, like, you also, another thing to like kind of reflect on a little bit as I'm listening to you is like, you didn't try to take a shortcut. You went back to, after 2 times and 11 months previous, you went back to fundamentals, and you didn't say, all I need to do is like take a bajillion questions and all that stuff. You took the disciplined approach where you say, hey, I'm going to take this new look at it, and I'm going to stick to it, and I'm going to, follow through, a methodology and stuff like that. And you reached out for help a ton of times and all the different ways. Like, how did it, I mean, is that just the way you do stuff, or is like something that we said or something like, or why did you stick to the basics? Like, what made you want to go back to the fundamentals and stuff? What made you want to do that?
Yeah, I always relate it to, you got to relate it to something you are so incredibly passionate about.
Right.
And outside of project management, whether that's, I use golf because it's my favorite thing to do in this world.
Sweet.
And it's fundamentals. If you're shanking it and you're hooking it and you can't get it off the ground, you got to go back to fundamentals. You got to figure out alignment. You got to figure out your swing speed. You got to figure out all these things that helps you get to be a halfway decent golfer. And that's learning. That's learning new material. And I knew where I struggled. I knew where I couldn't grasp. When do you do a change log, or when do you update the change log versus the issue log? And when do you do a change request? When do you submit a change request versus the other thing? And that's what I just had to keep pounding in my brain.
Yeah.
Realizing that was the ticket to get me kind of over the hump. I knew the material, I knew the processes, I knew what they were.
Yeah.
But I just struggled with, when do you do this versus that?
Yeah.
And that was kind of the ticket that got me where I needed to be to feel really comfortable jumping into it.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah. And it just takes time, and you got to work through, there's like a certain amount of like deep thinking that I think you did to really, first of all, reflect and say, I think these are my weak areas and stuff. And let me kind of like walk through that road of like understanding. And then you spent the time to break it down and experiment in your mind and figure out what was right and wrong. So
Mhm.
I applaud you for the tenacity, if you will,
Yeah,
to do it.
it was it was hard. I mean, sitting there for 4 hours and taking a test it's no joke.
Yeah. That is,
So
I
I
mean, like
looked at,
nowadays, I don't know. I mean, I sit for 4 hours cranking away in the office and stuff, but yeah, like sitting there and doing stuff. 4 hours it's an ordeal. It's a marathon, like
yep,
mentally.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. Give
No problem, dude.
me 1 second.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're redoing our basement and got a bunch of construction workers coming in and out. So
You got him.
here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where were we? Sorry.
No, that's cool. We were just kind of talking about your journey and how you stuck to it and all those things. So I think it's great what you did. I mean, like as you go back to work now, I mean, and through this journey, have the way in which you approached project management and how you lead and those things, has that evolved or modified or changed as you've you know you honed your craft and stuff? Has that changed any?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just learning, going through all those videos and going through all the note taking and revisiting the notes and kind of looking back to the company I work for and how we go about planning and executing projects
Yeah.
is nobody's really good at it.
Yeah.
As a company, if they don't have a PMO or a PMP
Yeah.
in the organization. I'm the first one. And so they're trying to figure out, what is my next step, or where can I help them kind of take that and become, better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as I've been going through all that prep to get ready for the test, I've used that information that I've learned to
Yeah.
kind of go to my company and say, look, guys, you want to start a project? You want to do a building move that's going to take 125 truckloads?
Yeah.
You need these 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 fundamental documents. You need one sponsor, all these stakeholders, the communication, the back and forth, the lessons learned, how to properly close something. So they're looking at me now as an expert, even more so over the past few days, but even before, because they've never heard it. They've never realized, oh, maybe an RTM is really something we need to
think through,
monitor over time. So yeah, man, it's been great to kind of use all that stuff I've learned over the past 12 months, and it's been
put it into practice. Yeah, and I think that's awesome that you're not trying to drop a book on them either. You're not trying to drop like 1,000 million things. You're saying, hey, I got a couple 5 little documents that we can use, and it's going to help us like solidify our process or get going. And then as we start to paint, as we go forth, we can layer in 1 or 2 extra things to really make us fine tune it. So I think that's the right approach you're going with.
Yeah, I started small.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
What I thought were the 4 or 5 or 6 most important documents, and what are these?
Yeah.
Every time I introduce one, it's a whole new explanation of what it is and why it helps and why it's going to be a huge benefit.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, like when you're forced and they ask that question back where they don't just take it and go, oh, thank you very much, I'll do whatever you say. If you're having to sell it and legitimize it and have it actually produce value like inside of it, like I think that can be a really effective way to evaluate the content as you go through and to reinforce it. Because like a lot of times with students, they'll tell me blah, blah, blah document or tool, and then I ask like, tell me a situation where you would use it. How would it be valuable? Why are you deciding not to use it now? Why are you using now? How, even if you haven't, done anything in this world, just like if they can conceptualize that, then they start to understand that why, and there's a need. It's kind of like pulling them to like, oh, obviously we're going to use this tool. Cause like all these tools, like we talked about before, weren't developed by just a dude or dudette in a room writing a piece of paper down. Like they were trying to solve a problem. Oh, let's do this tool or technique or document or whatever, solve the problem, move on. Like Simple as that, man.
Yeah, and I think that was huge too when we were going through those 200 questions on the Wednesday night calls. Let's just say myself, for example, would pick question B, and I would know looking at it was a wrong answer.
Yeah.
But you would say, okay, Mike, why would you pick the RTM in this situation?
Yeah.
And they would give their reasoning, but then the real answer would come, and then they could, boom, the dots would connect and say, oh, that's why you don't do it. Or that's why we are where we are in the process. And that helped, like almost just hearing you pick apart other people helped me kind of see it. And then over time, it's hard when you are reading those questions. It's kind of like you're on the spot. There's a tiny bit of pressure. And
there's a hell of a lot of pressure. You got 30 people watching you. Like
that is exactly how you feel for 4 hours and 15 minutes. The 15 minutes leading up to the proctor going go time.
Yeah.
And the next 4 hours of answering those questions, you feel the pressure. It's rough, man.
Yeah.
And there's no other way to explain it. You just got to try to stay calm. And yes, you're going to have a roller coaster of emotions. You're going to feel good. You're going to feel bad. You feel like you're fail. You feel like you're going to pass. And whatever happens at the end happens, but you got to figure out if it's great, great. And if it's not great, how are you going to get better from those mistakes? And that's how I kind of took it over the past 2 or 3 times I took the test. So
Mike the philosopher, I like it, dude.
Yeah, man.
This is good. I think like the question solving, Wednesday night calls that we do, those came out of need. People wanted to like, hey, let's talk through questions, and we just said, more people and more people. That's been one of the greatest kind of things that's evolved out of need that we've established, and it's not going anywhere. It's getting bigger and deeper, and now we're having micro groups. I just had one this morning where Rachel was leading, Emily and others through the session. So it was like, she's still a student teaching other students. And she was like, I know I can do it. I'm just not sure I'm going to get everything right. And I was like, I don't care. Like they want to learn from you and talk it through. Like,
I think that's a really good idea in the sense of putting somebody in charge, and walking through the questions and training others. That'll help you learn. There's no doubt about that. I think
because that's like I just tell you a little inside from my side of the camera. When I'm on those calls and stuff, I'm learning too. Like I'm learning how to facilitate. I'm learning how to get it out of the question. And a lot of times people will get an answer and I'll be like, how the heck did they get that answer? What are they thinking about? What's the angle that they're looking at this from? And it's like, a lot of times it'll open up another door of like, for me to understand, to go, oh, I can see how they see that. And all that. I mean, it's real. Like, that's why it's so much fun to do the 2 hours. And like, yes, you are on the spotlight, but it isn't. And we do play it up like, oh, we've got an eight in a row, guys. Like, don't screw it up. You'll be the night, we're trying to do. I'm trying to do that just to like heighten the stress while you're sitting in there so that when you get to the exam, it's, whatever. We can manage it.
It's stressful. There's no way, no matter how prepared you are.
Yeah.
There's always that little, devil on your right shoulder kind of telling you it's not. You're not going to know. I said it. I'll say it again. You're not going to know everything, man.
Yeah, you're not.
There's no way to know everything. You just need to know how to break those questions down. And I think too, the PM Master class was so huge for me. But I think what finished it all was when PMI released those 200 questions. Because those 200 questions are very, very, very similar to how they do it on the true test.
Yeah, and that's what we use during the Wednesdays. So that's what we're going through. And that's like the cool part, because like the feedback loops is the giant thing. Like getting that feedback to be like, oh, I missed it. And then being able to dive down to be like, let me get all the goodness that I can out of my little minor, slip up by missing the question. So
your 50 difficult questions decoded, that was a good one too. I went through those and I took notes,
Yeah.
I took notes on every question I took, whether I got it right or wrong.
Yeah.
And I just have paper upon paper, but for me, it's writing it down
Yeah.
and looking at it again. And that kind of helps me, finish a loop inside my crazy brain.
Totally understand, because that's how I wrote my book. Is like I was like, I got the PMP over here, I can read it, but unless I talk it out and write it out, it's not going anywhere. So like writing it down, and then we made it fancy looking, but like basically it's the same. I don't know if mine was as thick as your stack of papers, but it was just a bunch of random pieces of paper like that hanging out. So yeah, well, that's cool, dude. This has been fun. I think I learned a ton through this. I'm proud of you, dude. I'm like all these interviews, I'm mildly sad. I get mildly sad because it's like, oh shit, we've been like being on calls every Wednesday. I see you on the chat. You're in there helping dudes and going through that stuff. And now it's like, you'll chop in, you'll say hello, you'll teach your little thing, and then you'll be gone. But that's the way it goes. You'll be good. And then, if you got anybody else at your company, we'll help them out. And I'm excited to hear how it goes. You kind of like lead in from the front, like the lines, like let's tweak all these processes, and kind of you making the company a better place. So yeah, keep me informed, dude.
Yeah, I will. I'll definitely keep in touch. And I'm leading this huge ERP implementation right now, NetSuite Oracle. And we got about 30 locations across the country in Mexico that we're trying to figure out how to get this thing implemented. And I'll tell you what, that real life experience helped this test too. Knowing all these different stakeholders, what kind of influence do they truly have? And I've been with the company for 12 years, so I know the political game and who's important and who's not. But if you're a brand new PM thrown into this project, that's when it becomes difficult. And that's really what a lot of those questions, a new PM comes in, what do?
Yeah.
If you know the process is in order from top to bottom, left to right, that's what you need to know. And then you question out and you
go from there. And really, I think that perspective that you get as a real project manager kind of helps deepen your appreciation of those fundamentals. Like you're talking about shanking stuff and like I got a slice or whatever, the golf example, like those leaks in your game and those fundamental, like you're lining up wrong. You're pulling, the club's pulling you, or you're not your body, like whatever. I'm not a golf. I can play golf, but, I'll fly to Cleveland when we can fly again. We'll play.
Yeah, man.
And so, but like they make the real life examples, like make those flaws so much more apparent and worse. Like they just bring them out. And like, if you're screwing up at the beginning with like the stakeholder engagement and alignment, it's just going to balloon in real life. And you're just going to like eat it like later. Cause everybody knows, everybody's felt it, like whether you want to admit it or not, like it brings out your weaknesses.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll say is, I haven't sat for an exam probably since the SAT or the ACT in high school.
Yeah.
And heck, I'm 35 years old. So you think that was 18 years ago-ish, something like that. And so the first time I took it, I probably took it just to get an understanding, whether I was ready or not, of what that 4 hours truly felt like. So
that's the reality. You want to try to simulate that as much as humanly possible beforehand, but I don't think there's any way to really simulate it. Like,
no, unless you really do it.
Because you're locking that thing down and you're like, oh, I'm in this now. Like, there's no restarts. And there's no feedback loops, because when we're taking questions on Wednesday and stuff, or you're taking it on the line or whatever, like you get an answer, boom, I missed it. Okay. And then you can feel, oh, I'm feeling good, or I miss it. But that ambiguity of like, I think I maybe, who knows, got it right. Like if the devil starts talking to you in a certain way on your shoulder, like he'll eat you up. Like you could be getting.
He talked to me a lot on Friday afternoon.
Yeah.
But I just had to like shake him out and move on. And okay, I'm not going to get every question right. I just kept telling myself that. I'm not going to get every question right. And you know what? When I passed, people asked, how'd you do? I said, I passed.
Yeah, like you win, like you pass.
Do you care? Do you care? I got a 92%.
Yeah. No, well, first they don't tell you. You know Rob on the call, right? You know the Rob?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you can't see it, but he just sent me his thing. It is, I don't think you can see it all the way. Yeah, you can.
Yeah,
It's
above,
like
above,
literally
above
all
target.
above target except for closing. So that's pretty sweet.
It's crazy because the second time I took it, I got below target in planning, executing, initiating, and closing, and I got above target in monitor controlling. And then
weird,
this
right?
time I got target for monitor and controlling, but I nailed the other ones, which too, I really focused on. I looked at my analysis.
Yeah.
I said, okay, I need to, if I could hammer initiating, planning, and executing, I'll pass it.
Yeah. Oh, that's the dead on truth. I mean, you can do real bad in the corners and it'll sink you, but like in all honesty, like the middle's the 80%, the hump there. So we don't want to ignore the tails, but
No.
Yeah, the meat of the game is in planning. They say executing, like, but I think it's in planning and monitoring, controlling, because that impacts like your ability to answer the executing questions. We've been through it a bajillion times.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So that's cool. I mean, Rob passed this week. You know, yesterday you passed. Whatever. Everybody, Maya, all these people. It's bang, bang, bang. We got a new crop rolling in. So yeah.
Wasn't there a gentleman that was on there that said he was waiting and the proctor never came to start his exam?
Yeah, dude, Matt. Yeah, he waited for an hour and a half. And we're gonna do an interview with him to talk through that. First of all, way to go, Matt. Patience and stick-to-itiveness and not freaking out. Like, but the proctor never came on. The time started, but no questions ever showed up. So talk about freaking out. Like, we'll do a deep dive on that one and see what the deal was. But, you know, he called me directly afterwards. We got on the phone with, the testing firm and then figured out, said, hey, this is exactly what happened. They said, we'll look into it, made sure that he wasn't going to have to it wasn't his fault. Like, it wasn't a computer issue, wasn't anything. It was just like a glitch over there. And so, a couple days or whatever.
Yes.
I would imagine. He was not happy. Like, because I got the email from him, call from him, and I was like, that was quick. Like, you finished in like 2.5 hours, like new record or something? And he was like, nah, this is what happened. So, that it's crazy. But it also is kind of cool that, like, all day long I'm getting these calls. Bang, 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 like pass. It's pretty fun. Like,
that's gotta make your job that much better.
Yeah, because it's like, yo, Rob sent me this thing, and it's like, damn, like, I think he beat me, which is cool. You probably beat me too, so that's good. So
yeah, it was. So when's Matt taking it?
This into this week. They just rescheduled him. So.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
That week leading up to the test is just pure agony.
Yeah.
Pure agony.
These are the things that the internet doesn't tell you or whatever. But I think you just have to embrace this stuff and not take a negative approach to it, to be like, yo, I'm going into a tough spot. And like, I was at this PMI conference once, and they were like, hey, what do you do? And I was like, I help people simplify the PMP and blah, 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 whatever my shtick is. And then they said, oh, the PMP, it was such a mind-numbingly boring, blah, blah, blah experience. And I'm like, yeah, isn't that terrible? Can't we change that? Like, can't we make it like engaging and fun? And it's like, it's not the same thing as becoming a Navy SEAL. Like, it's not the same thing, right? But whether you're a Navy SEAL or you're going on a Mormon mission or whatever it is, they have a clarifying, unifying experience that they all go through, and it defines the community. Yep. And I think that is what, and we'll end on this, I think that's the cool thing that PMI set up to say, everybody's going through the same door, they're taking the same test roughly, and you got to study and pass it. And hopefully, if you do it the right way, it'll give you like deeper understanding, perspective, appreciation. And, and at the end, like the coolest thing that I know that you went on the call last night, right? The Monday coaching calls. You had already passed. Mm-hmm. Like I'll infer what you wanted to tell the people that are along the path what your experiences was, help them, guide them, give them, hope and all that stuff and reality. And you wanted to give back. So I think it creates like the better project manager, and it gives you perspective, and it gives you it kind of draws you to service in a sense.
Yeah, yeah, it does. You know, if I could help somebody, it makes it that much more enjoyable.
That's cool.
So yeah, my wife's a CPA, and she said she didn't think the CPA was as hard as some of the material I was.
Hold on, say it again. You broke up.
So I said my wife's a CPA, and
Yeah.
she said like I would show her some of this material. She's like, I don't think the CPA, even though it's 4 parts,
Yeah.
is as hard as that. So, you know, if you can do it, and if you can get through it, and understand that it's not going to be easy, it's going to be so worth it in the end. And it's kind of where I'm at, man. And thanks for all your help and enthusiasm throughout the process. It's been enjoyable. That's for sure.
I appreciate it, man. All right. Well, Mike, it's been fun. It's been awesome. Stay in touch, and
Sure.
we'll talk to you soon, dude.
All right, man. Thanks,
See ya.
Scott.
Adios.
Bye-bye.